Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of Superfed TV Presents REL Divisions 1 through and 3 of the REBBL. I am your host, Superfed TV, and I'm joined again by my co-host, Rumblebee. Rumblebee, how you doing, man?
Good. How you doing tonight?
Pretty good, pretty good. Surprised to hear you say good. I was expecting more dejection and pain.
No. It's going to be a clean cast until we get to Div 1, and then I'll probably sob openly.
Well, like
but for now...
probably should have told you that we're going to start with Div 1.
Okay, well then get ready for the sobbing.
Yeah. So, just so you guys know why we're starting with Div 1 today, I have finished the complete hype video, which we will start with in just a second. Divs 2 and 3 will have their videos done probably over the weekend, and I'll get them in on the next cast, but I did not want to delay this one any further since we missed our recording on Wednesday, which is what we're usually shooting for, so we'll get that out. But before we jump into the actual division coverage, we're going to kind of take a page out of some of the other casts and just talk about our games this week briefly. Specifically, and I guess this is still technically part of Div 1 coverage, so maybe I'll do it differently next week. But for week 1, I played Tadpoles in the Big City. Actually, you know, I'm just going to cut this right here, and the more I think about it, the more it makes sense to do it with the Div 1 coverage. So hang tight, everybody. This is going to be the Div 1 intro video. Welcome back from that, everyone. So we are going to go ahead and jump into the Division 1 coverage following that hype video. And we're going to talk about our games, and then we'll talk about just kind of all the other matches and do our regular format from there. So I played 130 with Tadpoles in the Big City. This was basically a rematch of our playoff game. And it kind of went in a similar fashion. I won the playoff game 2-0. I won this one 2-1. But what neither of us were really expecting was the bloodbath and the armor breaks. He got 17 armor breaks. I got 14. We each had a death. I also had a strength bust on my character and an armor bust. So I really lost 3 pieces on this. It was bloody. 95 blocks is not something you typically see in Div 1. And then between 2 AV9 teams, 11 casualties and 2 deaths. That's killer. Did you catch any of this game, Rumblebee?
No, I didn't. I just saw the bot report.
Yeah, so how it went, believe I won the toss. Or no, he won the toss, but he made me go on offense first, which I was more than happy to do. And I just got a couple early removals, and then while he was down numbers, he was able to start punching back, and the fouls helped me out a little bit. I think he fouled once and got a skink send-off, and I ended up getting stuck along the right side of the pitch, and really, you know, threatened to get surfed. I had to do a chain push play off of a Agi 3 dodge, and it just barely worked wide enough for me to get the score. And then in the second half, he was able to punch in a score, but I was able to rush it. He got, you know, down on numbers to the point where I was marking his skink with 2 stand firm tackle blitzers, and I would have been very happy had that resulted in a turnover. It did not. And he was able to scoot by, and then I was able to do a quick score at the end of the half, or at the end of the game in order to get caught up. But don't you tell everybody about your game, Rumblebee?
Well, you know, nothing out of the ordinary. Some armor breaks, some fouling, a dead legend. You know.
Yeah, the Dead
It,
Legend. That definitely made some highlights or some headlines. Um, it was early on in the match. I saw that.
yeah. It was turn 2. Rod hadn't even moved yet. And it was the first block he's took in Division 1.
Ouch.
It was to Mr. Whimper, Sace's legend, who has Claw, Mighty Blow, Piling On, Tackle, Pro, you know, all the fun stuff. But he didn't need any of it. He rolled a POW, rolled 2 6s for the armor, a 6 and a 5 for the injury, and then a death.
No regen.
I rolled a 1 on the regen.
Oh,
So it was time. I've been living fast and loose, and
tell me how silent your room was when you heard that sound. That death sound. Did you know before it even rolled, I guess is the question. Like as soon as you saw him target your wolf, your prize with the blitz.
well, the thing is, I was talking to Sace in Discord chat while we were
so
doing
much
it,
worse.
and he's narrating out his turn. He's like, "Oh, and push play my killer free block rod." And I was like, "Oh God, here it comes!" And I saw this stupid warrior run across the pitch, and I was like, "This is how he dies." I knew it was coming. I knew it was going to be Sace that did it.
Yep.
He's been ever since I got the call up to Div 1. But you know, the life of a Div 1 coach, I guess.
I can hear it, and I know just about everyone watching this is going to enjoy hearing that as well. So we've been there, but God, that was a disgusting piece, and I can't say that I'm going to miss him.
Yeah, I know. Nobody's gonna miss him but me. In fact, I'm pretty sure I had mental images of all of you dancing around with like war paint with pigs on spears and stuff.
Just his head. Maybe Hannibal Barker's. A couple other werewolves, I'm sure. Well, that's, that's kind of a rough start, to say the least, for your season. Speaking of rough starts, a couple other teams also took their first loss of the season as well. Going from top to bottom from here on out, we'll look at Skink Island Boys, who took a 2-0 win over Steve. And I gotta say, it was dominating from the Lizards, which I think was a bit unexpected. One of the werewolves got knocked out early in the match and never woke up from that. And the Lizards were able to get a huge advantage in terms of numbers. They actually outblocked the Necro team 52-30. Normally, Lizards are a team that struggles against Necro, as you pointed out in the pre-cap. What do you think went wrong here, and did you get a chance to catch this game?
No, I didn't really watch many of the games. I was busy with work and stuff this week. Let me take a look at Steve's rolls. Oh, okay, that's what went wrong. He rolled 42 1s and only 23 6s.
Still a lot of dice in general, though.
Yeah.
Especially when you consider most of those are armor rolls. Didn't go well. But yeah, that's some rough dice for sure.
Yeah, if you can't get your claws to do work against the AV9, skinks are terrible. There's not really you can do much against them if you can't get them to leave the pitch.
Yep. And to be fair, Skink Island Boys do have some Mighty Blow. They're definitely that new wave of removal game lizards, which we talked a lot about last season. And as we look through the lizard teams in Division 1 this season, that is definitely a theme of, having that mighty blow, that piling on, and jump up in the case of 130, which, again, has never failed against me. I don't understand what it is. It's a 4+ roll, and it always comes at a clutch time, and then he gets a blitz on top of it. It's just not fun. But yeah, I mean, those lizards with that removal game, they definitely are a thing. Moving on to another Necro team, Necronomics played Eat Man Things. Ninja Pirate Assassin is not a new coach to Division 1. He was here last season, but I would say he's playing with new fervor. Last season, he had a bunch of real-life stuff that probably, took precedent over the league. And he's coming out with a bang with a big win over the former champions. Necronomics got 17 armor breaks, but really what impressed me, and I watched this one too, the decision by NPA to stall out the game. He could have easily scored and gone 2-1 up at just about every point of the second half, but he equalized in the first half, and then in the second half just kind of held onto the ball and even gave up dice on the ball. Horny Cricket, to his credit, got many shots on the ball and even knocked the ball loose a couple times, but the rats were just always able to position themselves, get in the way of the golems, mark the whites, even do a little bit of removals themselves. I believe they knocked out Hate My Hair early on. Again, that's the same thing with what happened to Steve was just, again, an early werewolf knockout that didn't come back. So that is definitely a good roadmap to taking on Necro teams.
Yeah, who knew? Just kill their wolves.
Well, you don't even have to kill them. You just get them off the pitch, and if they stay off, you're good.
Oh, no. Everyone else's wolves have to die now.
They're gonna die. I mean, and that's funny is, I did say that Horny Cricket's team might be on the verge of imploding, but I was just a little bit off. Turns out it was yours.
Yeah.
Thanks. We talked about your game. Yeah, pretty much. We talked about your game already. Rats Off to You took a 1-0 win over Gloom and Zoom. Again, the Necros just took it on the chin. That's 0-4 Necros in week 1. Rats Off to You, coached by Golgothan, gets the win, as well as, is this right? Outbreaking Gloom and Zoom? Wow. 39 blocks, but they got more armor breaks against 50 blocks, as well as injuries and knockouts. Well, one more knockout for Gloom and Zoom. But that's quite impressive. I'm guessing that Golgothan actually showed up to play defense, so that's good.
You mean he doesn't just stick everybody all the way in the back? And
maybe that's just
wait?
Special treatment for me. It must be some special way of saying, yeah, but you're orcs, so nah. That's probably what happens. Pastry Pest lost Duberman in his Wood Elves, who showed up to Division 1 a little nervous, but man, they've got all the skills they need, and in spite of taking 42 blocks, they didn't suffer a single casualty. And in the 28 blocks that they put on the rats, they inflicted a kill, 3 injuries, and 4 knockouts. So look out. Duberman is playing to hurt people on Wood Elves. Who'd have thunk?
It's all that hidden mighty blow.
Well, it's not just hidden, actually. In fact, maybe we'll take a look at his team today. I think that's a good idea since he's off to such a strong start. And then the last match for us to talk about for Division 1 is the Three Mountains versus the New Year Norse. Ornan did get the win over Chaos Zabulu. However, it's worth noting that this probably, and I would say, to Chaos Zabulu's credit, this could have been a draw. Chaos Zabulu made some pass plays in order to score quickly after losing the coin toss and basically getting offense on the second half. And then basically the 300 did some things. Shadowing especially is effective against dwarves. But what really was the game changer here was that Chaos Bulu got a sack on the ball on turn 15, and unfortunately he chose to push them next to the sideline. He did have the option of pathing a little bit differently to put the ball carrier basically next to the dwarf that was marking and the sacker. But because he went to the sideline, the ball scattered out, got kicked up into the air, and landed swiftly into the hands of a Norse lineman, who is out of range, of course, of all the other dwarves, and it was a very easy score from there. So what could have been a draw did end up right in the hands of the Norse to get a 2-1 win. So, and Ornan did suffer death and some damage there too, but that was one that he got away with. We'll call it champion luck. That will do it for Division 1's last week. Leaderboard has a couple games played, but basically Duberman, who else? Duberman and Inky Island Boys, Ornan, NPA, Golgoth, myself, all won, and we're in the top half, and then you see a couple games here have already been played. So the teams that we're going to take a look at in Division 1, I just said one of them, Live Tree or Die Hard. They have already played, so they got a little bit of extra development, but we'll go ahead and jump in and look at them. Have you played played as Wood Elves much, Rumblebee?
I played as Wood Elves in Ladeus's Elf League, but it was against a bunch of other elves. So
I'm going to say no.
Yeah, I'm not a great agility coach.
We got John McClane here, who's a War Dancer, and he has Mighty Blow. And that's always a good thing, because you're already doing all your blitzing on your War Dancer. So in my opinion, getting that is great. I have seen it where if they've already got Strip Ball, they get Juggernaut next. Which isn't bad, but I think that's better in, the early part of, if you're playing earlier opponents that are more likely to not have Sure Hands. I think just about everybody in Division 1 has Sure Hands, or at least access to it. Or ways to keep the War Dancers off the ball. So to me, it's less useful, but I definitely really like that Mighty Blow pick. Butch Coolidge does have that movement up, but he is niggled, and he spends a lot of time on the sidelines. So that's less useful, and you've already got the sprint. I mean, I guess the advantage is if you're going to do a one-turn, you might be able to turn that War Dancer into a one-turner, but that's usually the catcher's kind of role, since they've already got sprint out of the box.
Right.
Corbin Dallas, the Agi up thrower. And this is Corbin Dallas the third. Fun fact, Corbin Dallas the second also started with an Agi up, and then was promptly niggled and eventually killed. So I'm wondering if we have the same career path here for Corbin Dallas the third.
We can hope.
Yeah. But like Corbin Dallas, he's a good shot. He's got a strong arm. And a guard lineman with block as well. So all in all, this is a really good, clean, developed Wood Elf team. When he gets his M&G back, it's going to be sitting at 1560 plus one extra journeyman. So we'll call that 1640. That's solid. That's definitely, right in that prime range. Sure, you'd like more development on your catchers. The tree is actually kind of a soft spot. Nothing special on this tree yet. Doesn't even have grab. So if it roots, you just let it push you once and you're free. Yeah, that's kind of where it's at. But he's off to a nice strong start. And we'll be talking more about this team next week. Anything to add to that one before I bounce off?
Nah, you pretty much covered it all. Curious what he's going to take with his level up on John McClane, though.
Yes. Yeah, after tackle to go with the Mighty Blow, and it's a normal roll. Not too many choices there. Probably sidestep, unless he already had that. Or no, he actually said in chat it's either going to be diving tackle or jump up. So another agi skill, which will be interesting.
Honestly, I'd probably take jump up.
Yeah, I would too. I think it's a good choice.
Having jump up on my wolf was was fantastic. Like I loved it. It saved me so many times.
Let's go ahead and take a peek at a Necro team just to get you more involved. And we've got so many to choose from. But let's go with Steve, coached by Yayo. Tell me, run down through this team and tell me what you like. Tell me what you see. I know I did this last week, but he took a loss out of the gates, and I'm sure, you know, this isn't necessarily a team in bad shape.
Let's see. No, I mean, it's a top-heavy Necro team, which is what you expect to see. His wolves are developed. He's got his own legend because everyone gets a legend wolf. He's got a rookie white and some pretty underdeveloped golems because I know Steve, or Yayo rather, remembers to pay his taxes.
Indeed.
So he's got the guard zombie, and the rest are pretty much empty. I'd like to see more dirty players for zombies. And I don't like the fact that he only has one ghoul. I heard, or I saw people chatting about this earlier today, actually, and they were telling some of the rookie Necro coaches not to bother with ghouls because they're fragile and they die. And I disagree. I think once you get to a higher TV, you need two ghouls because you're not going to want to tie up your wolves all the time. And it's nice to have like a ball carrying ghoul and then just a sacker ghoul. If you can get wrestle and tackle on a ghoul and just keep him back as a safety, that's a solid piece. And it's complete at 2 skills. And then if you can get it with strip ball, then it's an amazing piece. So I'd like to see that.
As one of the coaches that was advising the rookie Necro, let me go ahead and tell you, Mr. Necro Coach, why you're wrong. So my comment, though, was not necessarily that you just don't get the ghouls ever. It was that ghouls are SPP sponges. Once they're on your team, you're very tempted to just, I mean, pick them up. They've got good movement. You've got other things that you want to do with your werewolves. You want to be blitzing with them. And so they slow the overall development of your team. And so what I was suggesting was that, you know, rather than tempt yourself by having those ghouls on there, you do the ball carrying with the whites and the werewolves, at least until they get a couple levels. And then you're just going to have money flowing out your ears anyway. And it makes sense at that point to go ahead and get, you know, a ghoul and level them up and then get the second ghoul. But they are fragile. And so, you know, that point is fair as well. But my thought is, Necro is so slow to develop out of the box in the first place, that why would you ever want to waste that early development when all the other teams that you're playing against are also equally shitty, to then put those SPP on a ghoul that's going to die well before every other piece on your team, instead of focusing the ball on the whites and the werewolves in order to get them going. That's my thought.
And I agree with you. And if you remember, I told the guy not to pick it up until he was about 1400 TV.
Oh, that's a good mark. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, so we're on the same page. So you're not wrong because you agree with me. That's good.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I told him not to even think about a ghoul until he had 3 rerolls and at least 2 levels on both his wolves.
Nice. Yeah, that makes sense. Good. This is why you're my co-host.
So, but Steve is at 1570, and he's got 2 almost legend wolves.
Well, I can tell you, he had ghouls. Steve had ghouls last season. They did what ghouls do and did not make it the rest of the season. And actually, I think he also had his thumping in the devastational. So, the one thing that you didn't say that does bother me, and why I think he could have had an issue, as big of an issue as he had with that lizard team, is there's no bench, and there's also no dirty player. And I know he fouls, but you definitely take a hit when you don't have that dirty player. And you're also gun shy, especially if you've gotten You know, if you've already suffered a removal or two and you're down to 9 players, you are not going to foul with no bench behind it and no dirty player to even ensure a good shot at a removal. So I think that is also something that he should pick up for the next game. He's got 100K in the bank. I'm sure having a second ghoul would be cool, but I would rather you pick up 2 zombies. But yeah, that's just my last thought. Thoughts on the zombie thing, or did I lose you?
No, I'm still here, and I agree. You need dirty player. Like, he probably wanted Anaconda Strunk. Okay. to get dirty player, and I've played Yayo maybe 3 or 4 times now. We always seem to end up in the same division, and he always fouls, and he's always had a dirty player. So
Yeah.
maybe cycled them.
Oh no, he suffered some attrition on the Devastational for sure. I remember seeing some skulls and some rants about the Devastational stuff. Yeah, there was some injuries there. Very good. Well, that's going to conclude Div 1 for us for this point in time. Taking a look, actually, I'll do a quick peek at this week's scheduled games that are not yet played. Steven, rats off to you. I think will be a good game. Pastry Pest and EE Man Things. If you like Skaven on Skaven action, that'll be the Skaven game for you. Gloom and Zoom versus Tadpoles in the big city. 1:30 is due for a game, and I'm hoping he shows up big there against Fiction. And then your match against Three Mountains is happening tonight, so I'm looking forward to that as well. We'll see if Skinky Island boys have what it takes. You know, yeah, it could happen.
It's just,
it could happen.
Yeah,
we'll see.
I got this. I'm confident.
You do that. You do that. That's the attitude. Let us move on to Division 2. Here is the temporary work in progress recap, or intro for the recap. Welcome back, everybody. All right, we're popping into Division 2 and taking a look at the Week 1 games played. Oil Miners lost to Iron Madden, a history repeating all over again. This is how the two of them started last season. Iron Madden destroying Dwarves regularly, and that's just kind of a strength of his team going up against a team that is just not well built to handle Khemri in the first place. They're just, it's rough. And when the fouls start flowing one direction as well as the casualties, this is what you get. Only 3 injuries here. I can tell you there was a lot more than that because this is not counting those fouls inflicted. 43 blocks as well to 28. 0 ball possession by the Oil Miners. 0 against Khemri. Yeah. That's... Moving on. Ace Trucking Company played Communist Frat Party, and Communist Frat Party, coached by Nocturnal. Good guy, active in chat. Love covering his team. Good theme. Unfortunately, he got the Div 2 welcome, courtesy of Ace Trucking Company and Quicks, who has just got a disgusting team, and he had his way with Communist Frat Party like, well, a drunk girl at a frat party. So, yeah, That was brutal. Looking at the stats, you can see the development that Ace Trucking Company got, but 35 blocks, they were still able to get 10 KOs and 4 injuries in those 35 blocks. And again, there was a lot of fouling that doesn't show up here. I want to say it was almost a pitch clear. It wasn't quite there, but it was darn close. That happened. Do you want to take not an anime sports team versus Lords of the K? Since I know you're good buddies with Khaleesi.
I didn't watch the game.
Do you have your stats up?
Let me take a look. Pretty identical stats as far as ball possession and occupation. The Elves held the ball for 50% of the time, and the Rats for 43%. About the same amount of passes, about the same amount of catches. Really what sets it apart is the Elves almost doubled the amount of blocks succeeded.
Khaleesi does not play the high blocking game.
No, he doesn't.
He got Arch put a lot of pressure on the ball and on the Rats, and they did score early. The one turn resulted in a blitz, and when your high elves have movement 8, they can actually run all the way back from the end zone and punch your one turner in the face. So that was cool. That alone was kind of like really satisfying for me, because I was like, oh, he's gonna actually get a shot on the one turner. Awesome. Unfortunately, it was just a stun. But man, that armor break animation got me really, really excited. Because dead one turners, that's what gets me wet. But yeah, it was close. It was close. And then second half, Arch just, kept battling into it. But he couldn't keep up. He got a lot of passes. He got development on his thrower, which I know that matters to Arch, because you can't keep throwers to save his life. But he didn't quite get the win here, even though he just dominated as far as pitch control and pressure, and got a blitz, but still not enough. Rats were able to finagle the ball out.
It's hard to keep Rats down.
Well, and they just have, I don't even know why Rats would ever take big hand, because they just have a natural blessing when it comes to picking up the ball in tackle zones versus every other team. It just drives me nuts. Moving on. Cheese Tactics played straight up flatulence. And yeah, that was a game. Oof, that was a game. I believe it was a blitz to start for the Chaos. Cheese was receiving, and removals happened pretty early, pretty rapidly. There was an opportunity to score on turn 2 or 3 for straight up flatulence, but the Black Orcs put on their dodge and shoes and kind of bailed Cheese out for a little bit, and then it just kind of went back and forth from there. And Cheese got the ball after losing his Agi 4 Armor 7 niggled thrower. That guy died finally for good. Did Cheese a favor there. And then Cheese attempted a 5+ pass, didn't quite work out for him. And then at that point, the numbers were so heavily stacked in straight up Flatulent's favor, even though he didn't score in the first half on that blitz when he could have. It was a very easy walk in the park towards the end zone for the second half. But good win for Stubings. As we predicted, he would do well. He got through his first opponent quite handily. And Cheese, of course, coming off getting relegated out of Div 1, so he'll be looking to put the brakes on further tail spinning, but he still basically has this cash problem of having to replace a lot of his team. Not FDA approved played Please Don't Murder Me. And this is the High Elf on High Elf match. Super Dragon 3000 actually got MNG'd out of the match, which is always good for Luke Sama, not having to go up against the Strength 5 High Elf. But again, look at the blocks, man. 48 to 25. That is, again, nearly doubling. Where High Elves are just getting a ton of blocks versus the other team that is not really playing that block game. 4 injuries and Flick 2, so and a kill. Man, not FDA approved. Continuing his tradition of having more deaths than every other team in the league. That is the worst stat to be a part of.
Yeah, he's good at letting stuff die. The amount of blocks actually surprises me because I played both Luke and ATL.
It's definitely not the usual. You don't expect that.
Yeah, and ATL is normally the heavy blocker, and Luke is the I'm gonna dance around you with my AG6 guy,
yeah,
and just laugh at you while you try to stop me.
What I'm predicting happened here, and I can't recall from when I was gathering shots of this game, but what I'm predicting happened here was a couple early. Oh, he brought Eldrill. Interesting. Oh, there's an intercept. That was failed. Never mind. What I'm predicting though is there was a couple early turnovers in the turn order that caused, you know, all these based up players that he would have gotten counter blocks against to not even get to roll those. And if that happens 2 or 3 times in a game for elves, you just take so many more punches and it is just devastating. So, you know, you may only snake 2 dodges in a game as elves, but you could still just get obliterated for those 2 snakes if they're the first dodge that you make in your turn. If it's the last dodge, who cares? You know, you're not gonna suffer for that. But when you screw up on an early turn action, there is nothing more painful when you're playing elves. So that would be my guess as to why it was so lopsided. Because you're absolutely right that Luke Sama plays the finesse game, and typically ATL plays the bashy elf game. So a little backwards. We had Leafy Mustard playing Men in Tights, and Grazoot tripped over his own tail out the gate. He did get 16 armor breaks against the slightly bent Wood Elves, who suffered to death, but still got the win. You know, I think Grazoot's going to be okay with the SPP gain that he got, but the downside is that a lot of it was on this skink that's not going to be leveling up anytime soon. Good old Spunkmeyer. And slightly bent, man. I think he's going to do very well this season. So, off to a good start. Booze Cruise got the 2-2 draw against Trikundo, and this is one I did not see coming. Zwark's Wood Elves are good. Of course, a good coach, Zwark. Booze Cruise Dwarves, though, I expected them to have this one, especially if, you know, it's 81% ball possession. They were able to score twice, so that says something. They definitely put pressure on Zwark's team to score fast, but they just weren't able to put up enough defense to really, I don't know. You shouldn't give up the second score, I guess, is where, at that point, when you're playing against Wood Elves, you're in a lot of trouble, so... it must have been a 1 turn, maybe. I didn't catch it, but 41 blocks, getting 5 KOs and 5 injuries. That's some solid dice.
Yeah, I mean, that's a 25% removal rate. That's...
Considering you don't have claw, that's pretty good. So, there you go. And then there was a dead dwarf for Motley, so Motley's rebuilding in Div 2 is not going to be any easier. Let's go ahead and take a look at a couple of the teams here. You know, I think I would like to take a look at Cheese's team, because we just said it got a little bit trimmer. It's still at 1860 TV, so he bought something. What did he buy? He bought another thrower. There it is. And a... No, that's it. That's all he bought.
He's actually a little higher than 1860 because he's got a miss next game.
Yeah. So he hasn't actually replaced anything of value. He replaced his thrower that should have been gone a long time ago. So yeah, he's still cash starved. It's odd to think of that at an 1860 team, but he's just got these stat busts that gotta go, man. A movement 3 troll is still gonna function at most of its job. Most of the time, because you're just going to park it somewhere and hopefully keep players against it like a tree. But if he gets an MVP on that thing, ugh, what a waste. And then he's got his movement busted blitzer that is nearing legend. That's interesting. Again, still effective at his job, but considering the amount of GFI dice that he rolls, that's going to be a big hindrance. If we look at the dice rolls here, the GFIs, I believe, are an issue. Only failing 3 out of 15, but Jesus Christ, you threw 18 GFIs? That's a lot for an orc. Conversely, we saw 7 for Strategic Flatulence. So yeah, that's a lot of GFIs that Cheese throws. Partly because he's got that movement bust, but just, you know, positioning, that's also the other factor. He does have 2 movement 7 orcs that should offset the movement 5 ones, but not always the way that works.
Yeah, and in my experience playing Cheese, he tends to commit pretty hard. And he doesn't have the... I mean, I guess he's got the 2 move 7 blitzers now, but
that's who he commits with.
Yeah, even when he didn't have the move busts, I noticed that he would always have to throw GFIs to get himself back. And right. I mean, I'm not that great with positioning either, but I have 2 move 7s and a move 8, or 2 move 8s that are more than happy to, cover my mistakes.
It against certain matchups, right? Like when I played Wood Elves very recently, which we'll talk about another week, you expect to be forced into shitty situations against Wood Elves because their movement is significantly better than yours, and you do have to roll GFIs to either chase them down or do something else, like avoid, you know, getting good hits and having to choose between what you want to do there. But against, you know, some of the slower teams, you know, Chaos is not a fast team. 18 GFIs is a symptom of bigger problems, so that's an issue there. But that's my look at Cheese's team at this point. We'll definitely check in with him again this season, see what he's able to turn around and how he's able to develop from there. Is there a team that you want to take a look at? Your pick of the litter.
Yeah, let's take a look at the oil miners. I'm considering a dwarf reroll after this season. So
disgusting human being. So oil miners are a Zamboni death roller run-in team, and they do very good in certain matchups and very bad in other ones. And being one of those ones that he does very bad against, I still don't know exactly how or why. But once a certain amount of momentum gets built up against him, he gets steamrolled, just like a death roller. But go ahead and go through the team here, and I'll share my thoughts after that.
All right. Well, I'm not a big fan of the death roller in general. Like, I don't think I would take a death roller on my dwarf team.
A very leveled one at that.
Yeah. So, although it's kind of cool that it's got piling on. So hopefully he does some good stuff with that. He's got 5 guard. It's a little lighter than some of the other dwarves that we see. He's got sidestep on a long beard. That's interesting.
Yeah, I gave him shit about that one last season too. You know, when you could add dodge or sure feet, as some dwarf coaches get. He did get dive attack on another one, but the one thing that just jumping out to me now in this moment, well, there, I guess multiple now that I look at his team again. He's at 1430 TV, which is really trim. He's missing 2 people, so when those 2 come back, at 70, 15, 16, 17, so 1700. He's only on 2 rerolls, which is fine for dwarfs because he's got so much block, and the death roller's loner, so you're not going to blow reroll on it anyway. But he's got no blitzers and only 1 runner.
Yeah.
That's odd. Like, I get it, Longbeard's good. They got a lot of good starting skills. But their stat line blows. And so if I don't
and
know.
he's got an interesting progression with his one runner. I mean,
Yeah.
block, and then he went strip ball and tackle.
Right?
I would have saved. I mean, the block, that's great. Getting a strength up after that, even better. I probably would have taken like kickoff return or something and made him my ball carrier, and saved the strip ball and the tackle for his second runner, which would have gotten wrestle.
And maybe this is part of what I'm honing in on as why he struggles so much against certain teams is when I play against dwarves or when a Camry team plays against dwarves, your MO, your modus operandi is take out the AV8 dwarves. And so he's only got 3 of them, which is fewer targets, sure, but those are the pieces that he's relying on. Those are his workhorses. He relies on that strength for the Troll Slayer to make blitzes. And then once he does one blitz, he's now exposed and available. And the rest of the Longbeards aren't going to catch up to that guy. Same with the thrower. He's got strip ball. He's got tackle. This is his ball hawk, his ball threat. He's going to use him to make a play. And when he does, he's now exposed. There's AV8. You punch it. You foul it. It's gone. And then when that's gone, there is no peace with Agi 3 on the rest of the team. So yeah, I think that that's probably why we see such desperate, like, disproportional play from him on certain teams. But yeah, I took him 3-0 at the end of the last season. Oil Miners consistently have beat him. He does really good against Lizards. He typically does well against Elves. 2-1 win over Zwark. But Snovgard just 2-0'd him. I mean, Snovgard, that team's not even around anymore. 2-0. So yeah, it's a very interesting team, and you know, lopsided matches certainly happen, but I'm curious to see if he continues this trend or if he shakes his team up at all. Because you know, dwarves are just boring, but I guess some people like them. Good luck with that next season.
I said maybe. Okay.
Not as locked in as me and Rats, huh?
No, not as locked in as you and Rats.
All right, fair enough. Looking at next week, quick peek. What is left? Oh, guess what, guys? Div 2 is now the new Div 1. If you actually care about playing Blood Bowl in a timely fashion, you apparently landed in Div 2. Div 1, I don't know what's happened with you guys, man. I played both my games before everybody else. And I took a day, like, behind this week's. Get on it, Div 1. Div 2, good job. All that's left is Lords of Decay versus Men in Tights. Kaliste Maya's been just, you know, really putting up performances. So this is, I think, honestly going to be a huge test for him against a former Div 1 team with really good development. If he can show up slightly bent, I think that's going to turn the eyes of a lot of the REL coaches. And they might see through, as you like to put it, his humble, I guess we could call it his squiggy performance of, yeah, I'm terrible. I'm not good. I don't deserve to be here. And then we got Cheese and Oil Miners, because, you know, Cheese got his team beat up a little bit last week. Find the correct way to word that. And now he gets to play some beat up dwarves. So, the Battle of the Bruised AV9.
I'm going to call that game for Cheese.
Okay. Call him to come back on the Cheese, huh?
Yeah.
Oil Miners started out slow last season, so that's not too far off from that, because he is banged up from Gengaring him. Fair enough.
Can we start using that as a verb?
Gengaring? I'm okay
I'm
with
gonna
that.
Gengar you.
I'm gonna Gengar her so hard. Alright, let's go ahead and move on from that to Division 3. After this. welcome back. Hope you didn't get Gengared in the break. We'll move on to Division 3. I broke Rumblebee this time. All right. He broke me so good last episode. I finally got him to break this time. That's worth it.
Excuse me. I apologize.
No worries, man. No worries. So we are with Division 3. Looking at the results, we got You're a Lizard Airy taking on Tribu Urbana. And Hipster lost out of the gate. I did not predict that one. And this is going to be the division to watch. Metal really set this division up as the, hey, you made the playoffs with a fresh team last season. Guess what? You're all going against each other. And only 3 of you are going to make the playoffs this time. So that will be fierce competition. Looking at this match, and from what I can recall, sorry, it's been a while since I did watch this one. Tribu Urbana, I think they screwed up something. Was it a pass play? I forget. I know they had to score fast. That's what it was. So they just weren't able to stop the Lizards from scoring themselves on their break point, basically. And Lizards protected the ball extremely well. I think it did get knocked loose once. Hipster did a good job of knocking that ball loose, but the Lizards were able to recover, and eventually the casualties just kind of stacked up, and the numbers were really in their favor too. So Pantheon Passers played the Revenge of the Franks, and glad to see T-Self back. And he did a decent enough job of scoring on his drive, although it got a little bit sloppy. They got really piled up against the sideline, and Sidestep was managed to go actually, be very helpful there, and he surfed a number of the orcs. I want to say 3 orcs got surfed here, but those surfs didn't stick, and the injuries against those pro elves definitely did stick. Only 16 blocks for the passers. Like I said, 3 of those were surfs, so that's pretty good usually. Just didn't give him the right dice at the right time. And then 40 blocks for the Franks. Well, the Franks were able to score on the return after the quick score from the elves. And then they just kind of marched down the pitch slowly, as orcs do in their drive, with very little that the elves could do at that point. Moving on, Pro in a Party took on Tooth and Fist, and Soul put on the elf performance that the other 2 elf coaches that we just talked about could not do with their pro elves. Got a lot more blocks, which is usually a good sign as well. 32 blocks for these pro elves. They did get an injury and a KO, and they actually suffered less blocks than the other ones too. So being able to dish it and not take it as much is always a good thing. Only 2 injuries suffered, and if you're only getting 2 elves off the pitch the entire game, that is not going to be a good result for your team. So of course the 3-1 win, even with the 3 line of scrimmage blocks, or 4 I guess it would be for Tooth and Fist, still not enough for them to come out with the win there. So that was a bit rough. We had Midsummer Nightmares taking on Scooby and the Gang in a Dark Elf Necro match that featured Wilhelm Chaney, who also soaked up that MVP. This one was a bit rougher for the Midsummer Nightmares. They took some hits, quite a bit actually. Suffered a kill, 3 injuries, 4 knockouts, all on only 25 blocks. They also had some slippery ball and dodge maneuvers. Dice just were not necessarily going their way at the right times. And Scooby and the Gang, I think, kind of let them off the hook a little bit. They didn't have to roll a lot of dice in the first place, but I don't think they really had to put too much pressure on them either. And that's partly why I think this was just a 1-1 draw. There was a lovely pass from the Midsummer Nightmares actually over the entire Necro team. There was a Dark Elf, basically, that was separated from the herd and near the end zone line, and so the Necro team kind of positioned all around that piece, but also between the ball and the little elf cage and the end zone. And so the Dark Elf that was on the ground made 2 dodges through tackle zones into the end zone, and then just a 4+ bomb, or 4+ decent pass on the Agi 5 Dark Elf in order to get that touchdown to equalize. So good play from Midsummer Nightmares, but close game. I think the Necro just went a little soft on the boots. It could have made it a lot more painful. Fell with Kodadal, took on Murderer's Row, and you know, this one was pretty rough for the High Elves. It didn't take 47 Mighty Blow to get 2 kills right off the bat.
You beat me. You beat me too.
Yeah, I know. And this is actually one of those where, I mean, it was only 7 Kaz, but 2 of those were deaths. And I think another was an MMG and a perm. Like, it was just not kind injury dice, and they all kind of happened in the first half. So when the second half came around, it was already kind of like, okay, you either score immediately or you don't score at all. Which is a little bit rough for the High Elves there to try and play for the win at that point. And just good ball control, good pitch control. All around, Murder's Row played a very impressive game there. And their Mighty Blow Wolf is, you know, making a name for himself, as those are wont to do.
I'm jealous.
Remember what it was like to have a Mighty Blow Wolf, Rumblebee? Do you remember way back when?
Pepperidge Farm remembers.
The Necromantic Newbies got the 2-1 win over Cenobite the Curb. See, this is what's supposed to happen when Necromancers play a high TV Chaos team. They're supposed to be able to do, you know, a decent amount of damage, regenerate, stay on the pitch, control the ball, utilize movement, and, you know, all these great things that the Necromantic Newbies did. Well done, Yoichi Haruma. As we've gotten used to, you're kind of outplaying with an underdeveloped team, which has kind of always been the thing. Because even when his first season happened, he had just some really, really slow development and early deaths. And it's not like it's in bad shape right now, but just compared to 2000 TV Chaos team, he's the low man on the pole. We might take a look at him later. We'll see if we decide to do that. And lastly, we had TeamSpeak Crew version 4 versus Lebowski Urban Achievers in the Chorf versus Chaos match. And this one was all Chorf. 20 armor breaks compared to 9. Yeah, that's a pretty one-sided affair. A fair bit of fouling as well from the TeamSpeak crew, so that kind of assisted that. But 5 injuries inflicted, 1 death inflicted, and 3 knockouts against the Chaos, who only got 3 knockouts and 1 injury back. That's quite a stomping. Can't say I watched this one entirely, but very, very good dice for TeamSpeak crew, and just good opportunities to kind of force those blocks. I don't know how else that could have gone that way.
I didn't watch the game, but yeah, it looks rough.
That's pretty brutal. But we'll kind of focus on the leaderboard in future episodes. There's not too much here other than the results that we just looked at. And then as far as the upcoming week, we've got a lot of games still left to play. Pantheon Passers versus Your Lizard Airy. Again, back-to-back Pro Elves for Your Lizard Airy. We'll see how they play that out. A Pro Elf matchup in Tribu Urbana versus Pro in a Party. This will be a tricky one. Hipster has very little confidence in his elf-on-elf skills. And while Solo Dragons, you know, play well every time. So,
yeah,
we'll
that man's got nothing but confidence. We'll
see if that goes as predicted. Revenge of the Franks versus Midsummer Nightmares. I saw that one was a missed opportunity tonight, so I'm hoping that those 2 coaches are able to get that match played and rescheduled. Always sucks when you wait for a coach and they don't show up, so hopefully that gets taken care of, but I empathize with both parties. Scooby and the gang taking on the Necromantic Newbies in a Necro-on-Necro match. When you've got 3 Pro Elves and 4 Necro in one division, these things are going to happen. And Cenobite the Curb takes on Lebowski Urban Achievers. Guess what? There's also a Chaos on Chaos matchup in this division, because this is the match, or this is the division of mirror matches. Yeah, that's going to be fun. Whoever gets those teams after they play each other is very lucky. That's all I will say about that, because this is not the first time that these two teams have tangoed, and man, do they like to just say, all right, you line up your Claw Mighty Blow, I'll line up my Claw Mighty Blow, take turns, one man stands. That's how I like it. It'll be a good match to watch if you get the chance. Now, let's take a look at the teams and see. And if you want to pick first this time, go for it.
Sure. Let's take a look at... And I know I'm a little biased, but I want to take a look at one of the Necro teams.
Well, we're going to be doing it every week, so it's fine.
Let's take a look at Yuichi Haruma's The Necromantic Newbies.
Ah, you miss him already, do ya?
I do. We were good friends. I owe him. He's the one that move busted my other wolf.
I like that he fouls. He dedicates the DP. He's only got 2 at the moment, but man, he had 3 or 4 DP players at one point. And that I can respect.
Yeah, it's a little surprising he's only got 3 total zombies. So he must have gotten roughed up a little bit. Yeah. So, but he does have a piling on Mighty Blow werewolf.
Jesus Christ! I just saw that when you started saying it too.
Which is why I wanted to talk about him, because
he did the infamous blunder. He went dodge before tackle.
Yeah. But to be fair, you don't know that you're going to roll back-to-back doubles. Well, I guess this is the REL. Everyone rolls doubles on the werewolves. Everyone's an idiot for taking dodge.
Oh, I mean, it's not pro.
Shut up.
It could be worse, right? It could be much worse. It was pro. Hey, was that dice that killed Rod? Is that a legit POW, or was that just a stumble?
Oh, it was a legit POW.
Okay, just checking. Because if it was a stumble...
And it wouldn't have mattered.
Oh, because he has tackle?
Because he had tackle anyways.
All right.
But still.
I'll let you off the hook for that one. Because, man, the irony would have been thick there. Just had to check.
Oh, man. You would have heard me openly weeping.
If only you took dodge.
Yeah.
Anyway, back to the newbies.
The team's looking a little roughed up, but I actually really like the development that he does have. Like, this block guard strength up ghoul, that's great. Like, you put sidestep on that thing, and it's an unstoppable thing. He's got a blodge guard white. He's got, not fair, but he's got a blodge guard flesh golem. And it's sure his wolves look a little roughed up, except for his piling on Mighty Blow wolf. I think this team is in a great position to do crazy things.
If it was in any 6 of the other 8 divisions, I guess I'll say 5. Div 2, he would have a hard time just because the amount of just pure vitriol and shit in Div 2. But Div 1, of course, and then this div. This div is all elves and necro. Doesn't have tackle. All elves and necro are going to have so much blodge that without having tackle, it's going to really make you suffer. And he's 1 SPP away from getting a level on a white, but he's going to need to get Mighty Blow at that point. I mean, I'm not a big fan of getting tackle before Mighty Blow unless you're just up against a whole bunch of stunties. He's going to have matches that he certainly wins. I would hate to play Lizards against this team. I think both the Chaos teams are going to do less well, as we already saw against this team. But the Pro Elves, the High Elves, you know, and the other Necro coaches, I think are all going to do pretty well here. But that's just my take.
No, I agree. He does need tackle. I mean, he's got Frenzy, which is like poor man's tackle. So hopefully he can get some lucky POWs. And he still has 2 dirty players. So I mean, if you're listening, once those Blodge players hit the pitch, man, you just foul the elf right off them.
True. It's always a possibility.
Yeah,
they do eventually trip on their own shoes if you let them.
So I think he'll be okay. I mean, I don't predict him to win the division, but once he gets rolling with that piling on wolf.
Really, you're just trying to say, here, take the mantle. You're passing the torch. Rod's soul and skill and experience and usefulness is now all gone towards Yoichi Hiruma.
Yeah.
That's right. All right, let me pick a team. Let's look at You're a Lizard Ari, because I was actually surprised that they did so well. And Sarky is, of course, a good coach with a name that is recognizable. But he beat Hipster, which is a bit surprising to me. He's only got 1 tackle, because, you know, you don't actually need tackle, even though it's something that I would say you need. But 1 tackle Mighty Blow piece is a perfect elf killer, and I would say base it if you're an elf coach with a piece that you don't care about, and then it doesn't matter. Because that's how you're supposed to play lizards. And then he's got a Blodge source, which is, you know, that good long-term development path. It's fine if you have 1 source that you get Blodge on for that longer development once you get guard. Really useful. You can also go break tackle, make that your actual safety, where they can't just base it and leave it alone. The move bust on the Croc sucks, but it's a Bloxigor, so you learn to live with it and don't care as much. Very rarely are you actually using the full 6 movement on a Crocscore in the first place, so it is what it is. Where it gets interesting and where this team will have a strength is in the literal strength up on Helga Oxshill Turtle. I think having a strength 5 source is so stupidly strong, as long as you can get some levels on him, which he's already done. He's got block on there as well. He's nearing his 3rd level, which I would actually either think is going to be break tackle or guard. And I would probably even say guard, even though break tackle is the more fun skill. I think that guard on that strength 5 combined with that Crocs would be just a beefy, meaty front line. That would help him out quite a bit against the Necro and Chaos that are really, you know, in this division purely to screw him over. Versus, and then all the lizards, or all the elf teams in this division, you know, that's going to be up to how his skinks play and how the balls go. But if any of them have strip ball, you've got your work cut out for you. Any thoughts on this team, Rumble?
I'm a little confused as to why he named Ron Weasel Skink a Saurus and not a skink. But, I mean, I guess that's not really development. That's just me being confused.
Well, you know, he didn't want any of the main cast members to be a skink, I think. Yeah, except Harry, which is weird.
Yeah, I was gonna say, but Harry's down there.
Harry is down there.
And Sirius is down there.
And Harry didn't even get block. I mean, what's up with that?
Yeah, right.
Oh, it's the second Harry. So maybe, and that's the second Ron. That's probably what happened. He had the money. He wanted a Harry on his team because it's You're a Lizard Harry. So he couldn't not have one. So that's what happened. They swapped. It was probably the other way around.
All right, I'll allow
Either way, her Monitor Granger is the best fucking name on the team. Oh, it's so good. So good.
Phrasing, man. Phrasing.
All right. Well, we are just barely over on our time, but trying to keep that 1 hour mark. And I think we did pretty good today. I got you broke, so that was good. And you know, you didn't actually cry on cast, so that's also
that was. It took everything I had to not do that. So I go drown my sours in a bottle of whiskey.
I envy your strength. Good luck tonight against those dwarves. Drink after that match, not before, because I actually get them next week. So I am sort of counting on you to maybe do a thing. I know that'll be a little bit tougher than it would have been last week, but it's what it is. That's going to do it for us. Thank you, Rumblebee, for joining me.
Oh, thanks for having me.
And thank you, everybody, for watching. If you haven't already, and I don't usually do this, but I am in a little plug bag here. I just found out that I have lost my YouTube content creator something status, basically. So the thing that allowed me to monetize my videos, I need to get back up to 1,000 subscribers in order to get that back. So if you do happen to enjoy these videos or any other zany side shit that I do, feel free, subscribe. I'd appreciate it. Anyway, that's enough of that shameless plugging of my channel. Thanks everybody for watching. See you guys next week.